Joined by UConn head coach Gino Auriemma. We'll go right into questions and answers. Please wait for the microphone. State your name and affiliation before your first question. We'll start in the back right.
Hi, Coach. Mario Sack with News Channel 9 out of Syracuse. I understand the season goes on and you don't get to watch much of other teams, but can you look on afar of what Felicia has done at Syracuse? And on the flip side after that, do you see maybe UConn-Syracuse renewing a rivalry at all down the line?
Well, I would say that with everyone, it's not so much on my end as it is on their end, you know, whether it's a former player of mine or anybody that just takes over a program. I kind of leave it up to them, like whatever your timeline is, you know, you pick up the phone, you call us. It's pretty easy to get a game with us. As far as nothing about what's happened at Syracuse is remotely surprising. I tried really, really hard to get Felicia to that job before, and they finally realized the obvious thing for them to do. So the way they play, the way she coaches them, and how you know how successful they've been in such a short period of time. These are the same exact things she did at the University of Buffalo, right? And she loves the school. She loves the community. I recruited her out of high school when I was at UVA, and I've been really, really a fan of hers from back then, you know. So yeah, when I saw that they were in our bracket, I wasn't too pleased.
We'll go front row on the right here, Pat.
Pat Eaton-Rupp from the Associated Press. Gino, it's no secret that you guys have had trouble with high-level guards this season, whether it's been Hidalgo or Harper or any of those, and now you face another one tomorrow. What's different about this team, and what's going to allow you to prevent her from going off like the other guards did?
Nothing. She is going to go off. You know, she is going to score a lot of points. That's what she does, and she's really good at it. And I don't know that you're going to be able to go, hey, make sure she gets 10 tonight. I mean, might be like, hey, can we keep her under 20? That would be a great accomplishment. So sometimes, you know, one player can beat you. One player can be that dominant. And I think she is that dominant. And I don't think one player on our team is going to be able to do it by herself. And she does get some help from her teammates. But in those games, except for the NC State game, in those games, the struggle for us was as much offensively as it was defensively, because even when guards get 30-something, as Hidalgo did, the score was 60-60 going into the fourth quarter, and we fell apart offensively. So I don't know that you can just go out and take somebody out of the game that's that good. On the other end, you gotta score, and you gotta continue to score the entire game. So we know she's going to score, and we hope we're going to score.
Third row on the left.
Justin Gershon with the Daily Orange. Going back to your relationship with Felicia, you know, what about her as a player made you want to recruit her to UVA? And then over the last 40 years, how have you really seen her grow?
How many years?
40. And then, you know, over that time period, how have you really seen her develop as a coach and a leader for Syracuse?
First of all, let me just say I really miss my trips to Syracuse. That was one of the best places for us to travel to. It was a pain in the ass getting there sometimes, but it was great to go to. We had the same restaurant all the time, and we had the good fortune to have 500 journalism majors sitting there asking me goddamn questions that I had to answer. And then no other place in America do you go, you find that. So I kind of missed those interactions. And as far as Felicia's concerned, I loved her as a competitor, as a player. You know, she was active. She was, as I said, she competed. She could score. She has an infectious personality. You know, she was a great leader on her team. And as a coach, I think she's found her way. You know, I think there were some, you know, struggles early in her career, which there are for most people. And sometimes you're in too big of a job too soon, and you're not quite sure, you know. But I think she found the perfect spot for her at Buffalo, and it was just a matter of time until she ended up at a place where she can compete for a national championship. And you know, I saw her yesterday, and you know, chatted a little bit, and she's one of the bright young stars, you know, in our game.
Just a quick follow-up also, you mentioned that, you know, you kind of vouched for her to get the job at Syracuse. You know, what did you really do behind the scenes, and how do you think that maybe helped her land where she belongs?
I really didn't do much. I just, you know, said to John Wildhack, I said, what the hell's your problem? And that was pretty much the extent of the conversation.
Fourth row on the left.
Cooper Andrews with the Daily Orange. Coach downstairs, Paige talked a little bit about, you know, coming back from injury after missing the tournament last year, but there's still no excuse. She still feels a lot of the pressure with, you know, the standard that UConn has. What have you seen from Paige this time around in terms of her drive and her motivation to kind of get back to where she was her freshman year at the kind of the top of the pedestal there?
Yeah, in some ways, Paige is had a much better year this year than she did her freshman year. Freshman year, she was new and exciting, and everybody was all hopped up about the legend of Paige Beckers. You know, when she came in, I remember I told her she was famous for being famous. She hadn't played any games, she hadn't done anything, and she was famous. I couldn't understand why. You know, I was calling her Paige Kardashian for a while when she was a freshman. And everybody fell in love with the way she played, as they should. And then she disappeared through no fault of her own. And she's back, and she's better than she was. But doesn't translate into anything other than, you know, she's on everybody's All-America team because they remember what a good player she is. And in this postseason, I think she's been the best player in the postseason in the country. I don't know anybody that's had a better postseason from the Big East tournament to now. I think she's averaging 27 a game, something like that. And everything else that she's doing. Somebody just told me she would have to miss the next 150 shots to have as bad a shooting percentage as some people she plays against around the country that are viewed as great, great, great players. Think about that stat. She would have to miss 150 straight shots. That's how high her shooting percentage is. So she's very efficient. She's a great leader. And we wouldn't be here talking about her if she wasn't playing.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up as
Yeah.
well. What kind of similarities do you see between her and someone like Breanna Stewart, who, you know, kind of led your kind of previous era on this team and winning those below the national championships?
They actually have a lot of similarities. I wish Paige was 6'4" and, you know, had a 7-foot wingspan. I wish she was built like Stewie, but they have a lot of similarities. They really do. Very quiet confidence, you know. They obviously impact the game. They don't impact the game the same way, but they have a tremendous impact on the game. And she expects to win every single game she plays, regardless of who we're playing. So her and Stewie are very, very, very similar in that respect. You know, people have asked me about her and Diana. Her and Diana have absolutely nothing in common other than, you know, the impact. But in terms of, like, the other stuff, they have nothing in common. But her and Stewie, that's a very good comparison.
Go to the back left corner.
Chris Carlson from the Syracuse Post-Standard. Gino, I think you recruited Deasia for a little while early in her high school career. What do you remember from that, I guess, experience?
These kids have been around for so long, you kind of forget. You know? Yeah. To be honest with you, so much has passed, and I don't know that we got very far in that recruiting. So, you know, college recruiting is kind of funny, I should say, in that you might look at a kid and say, I don't know why I like her, but I like her and I want that kid on my team. You might look at another kid and go, I don't know that it would be a great fit for us to have her. And then when you play against her, you go, why didn't you guys make me take that kid? Why didn't we recruit that kid? That kid should be on our team. So you make these decisions, and sometimes you get them right, and sometimes you wish you had, done it differently. But we never got far enough with her to really feel like, man, I wish we would have been able to pull that one off.
We'll go to Christy, third row on the right.
Christy Winter-Scott, ESPN. Gino, assess the synergy that you've seen in the postseason with Paige and Aaliyah, especially in March.
Well, obviously they've played a lot of basketball together. They've also taken on a lot of responsibility when you're playing with freshmen. You have to be really good every night. I thought Paige and Aaliyah throughout the season, whenever they struggled, we struggled. Whenever Aaliyah struggled a lot, we struggled a lot. So as we've gotten into the postseason, there obviously is no room for error, no margins for error. So when Aaliyah got hurt in the Big East tournament, I think Paige took on an even bigger role. And I think she's happy that Aaliyah's back, because those two do have a connection, and they do work really well together. And if they play great tomorrow night, we have a great chance to win. If they play really, really bad, then things are going to be really, really bad for us. That's a lot of pressure for them to work under, but, every team has one or two players like that they can't win without.
We'll go up front to Pat. Front row here on the right, sorry.
Gino, I know you like to talk about how 18 and 19-year-olds shouldn't be getting tired at all, but Syracuse played Arizona yesterday, which is a team that also has 7 players, and Arizona got in foul trouble, and Arizona got worn down in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
What have you done this season to make sure your team stays out of those situations? Have you changed anything on offense or defense, and how do you keep them fresh?
Well, we really haven't done a lot differently because we are very imaginative. We've had to do things differently because we had no other choice. So we don't practice as long, which is good and bad. We don't practice as long, so it keeps them fresh. We don't practice as long, so they keep making the same dumb mistakes over and over again. So it's a toss-up. We don't play a lot of defenses because that would take a lot of time to teach, and we don't have a lot of time. We don't play a lot of zone because we're too small. So there's a lot of things that we have to do because that's all we can do. Our offense is basically, the same as it's been for the last 30 years. A couple of tweaks to, help some of the players with their particular strengths, but not that much different, It's just the amount of time that we can spend in the gym, and Andrea Hootie and, our strength and conditioning coach, and Janelle Francisco, our athletic trainer, those guys have their hands full, and they've done a fantastic job with our kids. But no, we just don't practice much. That's the only thing we can do.
We are out of time, Coach. Thank you. And
Oh, you got a question, though?
all right,
Go ahead.
There you go.
Thank you, Coach. But going back to Paige a little bit, with you mentioning
Well, if I
that-
knew it was going to be about Paige, I would not.
but
Thought you were going to ask about me. Go ahead.
with you mentioning that, you feel like that she's playing at her best right now. Can you take me back to when you first recruited her, and what did you envision as her ceiling could be, with the program here?
First time I saw Paige play, she played like a minute and a half at a time because she was hyperventilating or something. She weighed about 90 pounds, and she would go 100 miles an hour. She's like the proverbial balloon, When you let it out, it just and then and just falls to the ground. That's how she played. And then she'd run over to the bench and then come back out, do something crazy, and go back to the bench. And I remember saying to Marissa Mosley, who was with me, I said, seriously, this is the best player in the country? I said, you got to be kidding me. Kid can't stay on the court. She just, was such a young kid and so not filled in. She's big now by her standards. If you look at her now, this is huge. This is the biggest she's ever been. So she was just like this very frail kid, but she had something about her that only the great ones have. And you could see it. You could feel it. She just sees the game the way only great players can see the game. You can't teach someone, Coach Knight, Bob Knight said this a long time ago, you can always teach a player to look, but you can't teach them to see. Because they might be looking, but they have no idea what they're looking for. And she knows before she even looks what she needs to see. And she sees it quicker than anybody else. And then she has the God-given talent to pull it off. And she spends hours and hours and hours in the gym. To your point, like if we practice 45 minutes or an hour, I know because when we leave, she's going to sneak in there and put another half hour, 45 minutes on, which doesn't make anybody happy, but she can't stay out of the gym. So people think, you're born with that. You're born with some of it. The rest she's worked her ass off for. And she deserves everything that she's getting. And I said this yesterday to somebody. I said, she's the worst officiated superstar in college basketball. And you saw it yesterday. There are things that happened to her that if she was allowed to play defense the way people play defense against her,